just want to ask you, in your words, what is a
MAGTF, and it's that one word that seems to confuse a lot of people out there is exactly what it is. As you know, it's a Marine Air Ground Task Force, and what it's comprised of is a very compact organization that can be put into the most expeditionary environment you can imagine, and they can operate. As well as it can come into a more stable and static environment like what we have here in Afghanistan, and can function just as well. A MAGTF is a team, and I think that's an important concept to keep in mind. That team has been working together over a long period of time, and the whole integration of logistics, aviation, ground, is all those SOPs are sort of put together so that in the end, the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. And it's just a well-greased organization. And it can flex, and it can do other things with what it has. It doesn't have to be re-resourced. It can change missions on a dime. So it's a very valuable organization. But some of the challenges with a MAGTF is that some folks look at it and go, well, it's too high price. It takes too many people in order to put a MAGTF together. And that may be true in the beginning, but of course, as I mentioned earlier, if you have that flexibility to change missions or remission or retask, they can do that without any needed resources, so they can do it faster. They can turn and spin much more quickly. So it requires a little bit of education. And of course, one of the beauties of the MAGTF is it has its own aviation. So it's got a built-in rapport with the guys in the air. And although we may not have a whole lot of extra firepower from the ground as far as artillery or ATACMs or those kinds of things, we have our aviation. And our aviation bring all kinds of incredible artillery to the battlefield. So obviously I'm a believer in the MAGTF, and I think that it's a very valuable unit organization. But it requires a little bit of explanation and education from time to time.
So let me ask you, because I want to back up to what you said there about how unique it is and how it's able to flex. Explain to me the difference between other branches of the service being able to respond like that and what a Marine MAGTF brings to the table, the uniqueness of service there.
Right. Well, for example, here in Afghanistan right now, as we're downsizing, and it's very important that we demonstrate a withdrawal. The President said, "Hey, we're going to withdraw, so we're going to withdraw." So as we look at who are we going to draw down on, there is a tendency to look at that MAGTF and say, "Well, gosh, that's a big organization. We can get rid of them, replace them with a couple of Army brigades, and we'll be able to draw down more steeply." And we won't lose too much. But the reality is that they will lose a lot by moving a MAGTF, a Marine Air Ground Task Force, out and withdrawing. And that in the Army, in order to have a brigade, that's fine, but then you have to resource it with everything, from logistics, aviation, supply, fire support. And so when you finally add that package together, it still may not add up to the total number of a MAGTF, but it's an ad hoc organization. It's now been put together for that one mission, and then it can't be remissioned, it can't be retasked. One, and then two, it's just been put together, so they haven't been working closely. The team aspect is not there. So that's of course the value of the MAGTF. And our routes are amphibious, and so it was always designed to be on forward presence and forward ready, on ship, ready to respond to anything. And so in order to be able to respond to anything, you need to develop a MAGTF. But it's shown great value and great versatility here in places like Afghanistan, where right now, as we speak, we're changing our mission from counterinsurgency to advisor training mission. And I think we're able to do that and flex because of the uniqueness of the MAGTF.
Now, you talked about flexibility, sir. Let me back up and get that. I mean, I've got almost 30 years of experience with this. So, but for the average Joe, in this kind of a contingency operation that we might lose our expeditionary edge?
Well, yeah, I mean, this environment here in Afghanistan has grown to a point where it's pretty stable, and a lot of our expeditionary capabilities, whether it be producing water, we could go anywhere and we could produce water. Here, we have bottled water. Regarding just chow and medical attention for our troops, we have a phenomenal Role 3 surgical care unit here that is just tremendous. But we need to test and keep our Role 2 and Role 1 facilities operational and practice. So, we send them out forward, even though we're in a pretty stable environment, and most of the time we're going to medevac our guys back to the Role 3s, but we're still giving them practice. So even though we're in a fairly stable FOB-like environment with our Marines forward, obviously, in patrol bases but even then, they're still getting bottled water, they're still getting, good chow delivered to them, and they're being provided the best possible medical care. So we're still trying to practice our expeditionary nature, despite the fact that we're in a relatively stable environment. And you got to, because we're going to go back to the sea, and that is where we belong. And so I think we're testing the equipment, we're testing the capabilities, and keeping it sharp.
So this is called this is a macro question. This is called a MEF forward.
Right.
And a normal MEF is set up with the wing and all of that. So, and you've explained already about how a MAGTF can flex down and flex up. Explain how 2 MEF forward has operated as a MAGTF.
Well, the MAGTF can be, there's the standard measures of a MAGTF, the MU, the MEB, and then the MEF. But within that, there's a variety of other MAGTFs that are organized dependent upon the mission. We have special purpose MAGTFs that are at the very small end, who can go in and provide humanitarian relief or disaster relief and humanitarian aid in various places around the world. And then so we could develop a special purpose MAGTF that maybe has a heavy logistics flavor. Or we can put a special purpose MAGTF in some place. We could have done it, for example, in Libya, where maybe the emphasis was on aviation and aviation support. Here in Afghanistan, we built as a MEF forward, which is a extract from the Marine Expeditionary Force, but it's large. And to be honest, when a MEF forward is built and deployed, the parent MEF is really reduced significantly in its capabilities. It doesn't have the full complement, obviously, because I've taken 20,000 Marines from the MEF, really from throughout the Marine Corps to form the MEF forward. So 2 MEF is back in Camp Lejeune right now, and they're actually able to do operations and exercises. They're doing Bold Alligator, which is an amphibious exercise, and they're able to work through that. But the MEF forward here is still a pretty huge investment for the Marine Corps. And we are, according to the Commandant, and I see it every day, a top priority for him. So this organization, the MEF forward deployed in Afghanistan, is getting what it needs in order to get the job done, sometimes at the sacrifice of some of the MEFs that are back in the States. Yet, they're still able to meet mission. So
let me ask you this about, now that we've explored and explained what a MAGTF is, let me ask you about 2 MEF forward and their involvement with JAROA and counterinsurgency and the economic development of this region, the history of what this MEF has done in this region.
Well, we started the history of the Marine Corps' involvement here, starts back in 2001. When Task Force 58 first came into Kandahar and Rhino Airport and basically pushed the Taliban out of the Kandahar, Helmand region, pushed them out. It was very successful. And we came in with a very small footprint, probably less than 3,000 to 5,000 Marines were involved in that first investment. Then after that, we started getting involved in Afghanistan in a episodic way, to be honest. I mean, we brought in a battalion. 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines came in. The battalions from 3rd Marines came in, and they covered miles of area in Afghanistan. I mean, their command and control logistics was spread out from here to Kingdom Come. It was a high-risk operation, to be honest, and but they performed magnificently, and they were able to get out, particularly over in what we call RC East area now. They were able to get out, and they were able to meet the locals and build relationships with the districts that they were operating in over a vast area. We've seen here in Helmand Province, we've had to deal with a lot of the British history and how they were spread out. But over time, that spread became a liability to them. And there was a realization under General McChrystal and others that we needed to invest more forces into Afghanistan, because it was just, you couldn't protect the populations with the small force densities that we had at that time. We had to beef it up. So we did. And so in 2009, late 2008, 2009, we brought in 2nd MEB, and we reinforced this Leatherneck Bastion complex. And then the Marines joined the British forces here in Helmand and Kandahar province. Eventually, we split out and we became Regional Command Southwest, and it became the Marines Command when 1 MEF forward came in. And then that marriage was made between the U.S. and the UK forces, and then the other coalitions, Estonians, Danish, Georgians, etc. And so now we have the force density to be able to protect the populations, and over the past year and a half, we've sort of established a pretty secure foothold. And now it's time. Now as we face withdrawal, now as we face the presidential mandate to start sending people home, we're in a position for at least another 8 months to continue to keep the pressure on the insurgents, because they're running. They're on their heels. They're on their back. They're not functioning anywhere near the way they were in the earlier years, 2009, 2008. So this is a period to sort of really finalize the security situations in all the districts and push all the Afghan security forces into the lead. We're still here in enough strength, enough numbers that if they should have challenges or problems, we're right there, we can back them up. But as the withdrawal begins, we're going to move from a counterinsurgency mission to an advisor trainer mission. And then we will be in the background. We'll provide quick reaction forces for them, and we'll provide some enabler support, be it medevac, aviation, fires, or those kinds of things. But the Afghans will be doing the fighting, and we'll be doing the advising. And then over time, the advisors will eventually fade out, and it'll be totally an Afghan fight, or an Afghan situation, which I think they're very capable of handling.
Sir, one last question, if I may. What do your Marines, what do the people at home need to hear from their general on the ground here about the place in history that 2F Forward's got right now?
Yeah, I think when we look at what's been accomplished here in Afghanistan, something to be very proud of. It's interesting, but most Marines and sailors that operate and fight out here, I'm always impressed by their compassion. And they see people in situations where they've suffered totalitarian regimes, where they live in abject poverty, and that they're abused by people who have some authority. They're prey to corruption, corrupt officials, corrupt police, corrupt army. And what we've done is we've come in here, and first of all, we've modeled for the security leadership, for the Afghan security forces. I think we've modeled for them what it is to have authority, but use it in a way that betters people. And that modeling that we've done, I think, has been taken on by the Afghans. Because in the end, that's what we can do best is just properly model, how a country with the military might that we have can still, in an area like Afghanistan, behave under strict rules, showing compassion for people, and when you don't have to apply firepower, even though you're taking risk, you don't. And that's what our Marines and sailors bring to this fight, is that compassion and those values that allow us to do the right thing. And so, that I think is what's going to go down in history. And when Afghanistan is a vibrant, it's never going to be the United States, but it has assets, starting with its people and some of the mineral resources and stuff. It has the capability to thrive as a vibrant nation. And if you just got to go back in history, you can see that it has in the past. But it requires good leaders, and it requires a security apparatus that doesn't abuse its power, and that stays honest, and that respects the people of this country and treats them with a certain degree of compassion. So I think the history will be something that we'll be proud of.